Hello and welcome to the Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. This is Rob.
And I'm Ryan.
And we are here to cover WWE Summerslam event, premium live event for 2022. And we're doing a review and letting you know how we felt about it.
Yes, sir. First ever pay-per-view under the Triple H banner. It's the first ever pay-per-view not with Vince in charge in the history of the company, which is wild to say.
That is very wild.
Yeah. And yeah, they're going to talk about basically all the matches, any thoughts we have, and what we're looking forward to next.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so before we get too far into it, just a reminder to follow us on all the social medias platforms. So Twitter at Deep Six Wrestling. It is wrestling without the G at the end. Also subscribe to the YouTube Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. And if you aren't already subscribe to any of the different platforms that we are on for our podcast. And you can leave a review, a rating on some of them. And yeah, feel free to let us know how you like these.
Seriously, everything helps us out. We're trying to grow and get bigger. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So I guess with that, we can start on up with the beginning of the show.
Yeah, let's jump on in. We started up with the Raw Women's Championship match between Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. Bianca Belair defeated Becky Lynch by pinfall in 15 minutes and 10 seconds. This has been going on a long time.
Yeah.
But the match delivered. I really enjoyed it. And there were some great things after the match as well. So with Becky Lynch offering her hand to Bianca Belair, Bianca shakes it, and they are all good. I guess this signaled a face turn for Becky, and then even more happens after. I'll let you get into that if you'd like.
Yeah, but before that, it's been basically a year since this feud kick-started at SummerSlam last year in a very disappointing match, I'd say, for a lot of people last year in the squash match of Becky just returning and beating Bianca in like 20 seconds.
It is 26 seconds.
26 seconds, yeah. And then I think other than that, they've delivered in all their matches. I think they wanted to go with the shock return for Becky last year, which, I mean, it was shocking, but it took a while for Bianca to recover, I think.
Yeah.
And then their match at Mania this year was pretty good. I think this one was a little bit better. I feel like I enjoyed it more. I do have to say that I believe this was the first match where commentary talked about how humid it was at the arena or the stadium. And that
they mentioned it several times throughout the night, and this was the first.
Yeah. Basically, whenever people were trying to get on the ropes, you could see they were very gingerly trying to like get a hold of them. And I think that's going to be an issue anytime you have a outdoor show in the summer in a place that isn't like Vegas where there's no humidity.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, good on that. Nobody, at least in this match, nobody looked like they were doing anything wrong. I don't remember a spot where it was like, oh, wow, that you really slipped there. But yeah, it was very hard hitting. And then after the match, we hear Bayley's theme. Bayley, who has been out for well over a year, what was it, a torn ACL?
Torn ACL, yep.
Yeah.
And she has been gravely missed.
Yes.
In the women's division.
Yes. She has, I believe it was gearing up for a match with Bianca for the title last year.
Yeah, correct.
Was it Money in the Bank?
It was. I think they might have even been setting up for SummerSlam. I don't even know exactly.
Yeah, it was signing up over the summer.
No, it was setting up for SummerSlam because remember Bianca didn't have an opponent.
I thought that was going to be Sasha, and then Sasha.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah. You're right. So I don't know what it was. Maybe it was for Money in the Bank. I don't remember that.
It was early of the summer of last year. That's all I remember.
Yeah,
is when down. She comes out. She's got a new look. She's got like reddish, purplish hair. Crowd goes crazy for a return. And the entranceway for this, because it is a stadium, had this little curve in the middle, and she just stops there, and she starts throwing thumbs down at the fans, showing that she is still a heel. And then all of a sudden, she just stops. She just stands there, and then Dakota Kai's music hits.
Not Dabba-Kato, as Sam would have you believe.
Yeah,
but
it is
Dakota Kai herself,
who was released from the company earlier this year. So this was a huge shock because, she wasn't with the company, and that's exactly what Corey Graves on commentary says. He says that she isn't even a contracted employee. How is she here? And so Dakota stands with her, and then some more music hits, and it is IYO SKY, another person who has been rumored that her contract ends at the end of the summer.
But
she has come out.
IYO SKY. Yeah. She has been rebranded as IYO SKY. Yes. All capitals IYO.
Yes.
The word sky. A little bit weird choice there, but I am happy to see her on the main roster, as well as I'm happy to see Dakota Kai back.
Yes. I do think it's interesting to have these three because, or at least these two, because I think Dakota, for one, has been in the company was with the company for so long, and like it kept on feeling like there were points in her NXT time that she had just hit her limit and she should have moved up, and 100%. They never did. And then earlier this year, she started doing dark matches and I believe main event, and it looked like she was going to finally get called up, and they didn't do anything with it, and then she was released. IYO I feel like hit her ceiling in NXT quite a while ago.
Yeah.
She was put into a tag team with Zoe Stark in NXT. Zoe got injured, then IYO got injured, and we haven't seen her since. And
actually, we last saw her in a fatal four-way match for the NXT Women's Championship with it was Mandy Rose, Cora Jade, IYO, and it was someone else. It was someone else. I don't remember who it was, but she took the pin in that match, I believe.
Okay.
So
yeah, it's been a while.
Earlier this year.
Okay. So yeah, it has been a while.
It has been a while though. Yeah, correct.
And yeah, good to see her up on the main roster. Hopefully, with Triple H at the helm, he knows what he's doing with IYO. Because I think that was the main complaint I'd say with Kairi when she got moved up, is they didn't really know what to do with her. It was just like, okay, well, we've got Asuka here who's not doing anything, and we've got Kairi, so let's make you guys a tag team. And then once the tag team wasn't a thing anymore, it was like, okay, well, what do we do now? So I feel like hopefully they know what they're doing. I think they will. But I do think this is definitely a point to show that with Triple H in charge, people who were released that people might have been surprised about, especially NXT people or people who had gone through NXT and were treated very well under Triple H's reign in NXT, maybe having a lifeline to come back into the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say the match was great, but the moment after was even better for me.
Yes.
This was like one of the highlights of the entire night, without a doubt.
Oh, absolutely. I think this was probably the strongest way to kick off a show that you possibly could. This felt like a WrestleMania moment, and this was the perfect way to kick things off. We had this new group stare off against Bianca, and then Becky came to help Bianca, and then Bayley, IYO, and Dakota walked off. So yeah, it seems like Bayley's coming for the title, and she's got some friends.
Yep, love to see it. I'm looking forward to that program and what's in store for the future.
Yes, and it's so good to see Bayley back.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I miss Bayley so much.
Yes.
Next up, we have Logan Paul versus The Miz with Maurice and Ciampa in his corner. I still don't get that pairing, but okay. Logan Paul defeats The Miz by pinfall in 14 minutes and 15 seconds. And oh my God, this was one of the best matches of the entire night. Logan Paul looked incredible.
Yes.
I mean, The Miz is great. So he definitely has a big hand in this because The Miz is super underrated, very talented worker, and he's very good at getting the most out of people.
Yes.
And he's very reliable and safe and all that. But Logan really, really looked good. He hit like a crazy frog splash through the announce table. He had a couple slips here and there, but for the most part, everything he did looked really smooth. And I think he's got a big future in the business if he does stick with it. Not as a babyface, but I think he's got a good future.
Yeah, I think that this match, I wasn't too nervous that it was going to be like that Logan was going to be bad, because we saw him at WrestleMania and he was very good there. But we got to see a little bit more from him here. It wasn't a tag match, so he wasn't having to like let The Miz do a lot of the work. He was able to do a lot here. There were some slips again. I think part of that is the humidity, but also part of it is probably Logan isn't used to being on outdoor ropes like that in the heat. And the frog splash onto the announce table definitely, I think, started to turn a lot of the fans towards Logan, because at the beginning he was booed a bit when he came out. He's been booed from what I've seen in most of the segments he's been doing. But at the end of this match, there was resounding cheers for him. There were still some people booing. There's some people who, I mean, Logan is a very divisive individual, but I think as a wrestler, he definitely shows that he actually cares about this. He's not just doing this for a quick paycheck. He actually seems like he wants to be here. And you can tell he definitely was or is still a fan of wrestling, with his with some of his moves, his like little taunts. He gets what wrestling is supposed to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's got a good personality for it too.
Yes. Yeah. I think the big point here, I think there's a little bit where you can say maybe Triple H realizes that Tommaso should not be in this group, because 100%. He was very quickly not a factor in this match, with them ejecting him basically towards the beginning of this match just for touching the apron. AJ then shows up to beat up Ciampa and get him out of there.
Because Ciampa refused to leave. He put a chair down and was like, "Nope, I'm not leaving." And then AJ Styles' music hit, barely audible for some reason.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, AJ hits a phenomenal forearm and takes him out.
Yeah. I definitely think that Ciampa and The Miz will be a thing for a little bit more, but I don't think this is a long-term pairing. I do not think that it really fits Ciampa.
Not at all.
But he's a professional. He knows what he's doing. From what I've seen, he still like is giving it his A. Where
He'll make it work.
Yeah, I feel like there's certain people who would like if they were this supposedly badass guy who's like all about pro wrestling and all this stuff, and then comes up to the main roster to be the Miz's lackey. Especially with his look, it just doesn't fit. But yeah, we'll see where it goes. But Logan looked good. And I think the only maybe question mark here was the finish. I thought the finish looked a little wonky, because, it's just how it was. But
the finish being Logan Paul hits the Miz with the skull crushing finale and pins him, which is
he's gonna need his own finisher.
100%. Yeah, he should definitely get something else.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that these two matches starting off the show pretty damn good.
It was definitely a hot start for sure.
Yeah, and again, very surprising that we have Logan Paul starting to turn the fans around towards them.
Yeah, that is definitely a development. Next up, we had the United States Championship match between Bobby Lashley and Theory, with Bobby Lashley defeating Theory by submission in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. There's no surprise in this at all. Nobody expected Theory to walk out of this United States champion. This was just a rematch for the sake of having a rematch. But honestly, it was fine. It wasn't really memorable or anything. Theory beat up Lashley with the briefcase before the match started, but obviously Lashley is a super tough dude. So he recovered and beat Theory pretty easily. It was solid though. It wasn't anything super memorable. It was short. Didn't need to be though. So Lashley is super over. It's nice to see. He was kind of his initial run with the company didn't go so well, and when he came back, he wasn't treated great either. So now to see him actually treated the way he should be is cool. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I was a bit worried for Lashley when he lost the world title that he might get lost in the shuffle, and then his feud with Omos, I thought he got the best probably that was possible out of it, but
yeah, I would agree.
I was a bit nervous that this could derail Lashley for a bit, but I think he looks really good with the U.S. belt. I think he's somebody who can kind of elevate that belt for a while, because as we have noted amongst ourselves for quite some time, the mid-card belts on the main roster have not been given the best runs in the past 2 years or so. But I think the current crop who hold them are two people who I think can elevate the belts back to the prestige that they used to have.
It's fair. I don't think we have much more to say about this one.
No,
we can move on to the next match.
Yes,
which is the Mysterios versus the Judgment Day, with Rhea Ripley.
Yep.
And it's a no disqualification tag team match. The Mysterios win by pinfall in 11 minutes and 5 seconds because of Edge. Edge returns and he spears both men, and then Rhea surprisingly doesn't get involved for some reason. But then Ray is able to hit he hits the 619 and then he goes for the splash, but I don't know whether this was the ropes again or what, but it looked really sloppy. He missed by what looked like feet.
Yes,
but whatever.
I thought he was trying for a diving headbutt at this point.
Yeah, it looked like a diving headbutt, or I thought he was gonna go for like a tope senton thing or something, but he just didn't.
He just looked like he belly flopped on the mat.
It wasn't pretty, but whatever. The match was solid. It told a decent story, and we got Edge back to get some revenge on the Judgment Day, as I expected. So yeah, I had no issue with this. The Judgment Day looked really strong. Basically, they were destroying the Mysterios until this happened. So it's fine.
I think the only question is one, what music is Edge going to come out to?
Oh,
because
yeah, that is a big
we have
question.
no idea what that song was.
Yep.
I thought it was the Brood theme originally, like they did with SummerSlam last year.
Because Edge rose up out of like a stairwell or something, some weird
Yes.
like staircase, and then like with flames and
the red
lighting,
yeah.
And then he like came down. He was looking all cool, though he has a haircut that doesn't look as good as his long hair, but whatever.
Yeah.
But it was some random music. It just sounded like a generic theme song. It wasn't the Brood. It wasn't Metalingus. The Judgment Day still using the other Alter Bridge song, so I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully this maybe is a one-time thing just for this, but I guess we'll find out more on Raw on Monday, maybe. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this feud continues with the Mysterios and Edge versus Judgment Day, if this leads to a 6-on, or it can't really lead to a 6-on-6 because you're not. They'd need a woman for real.
But they could, because Beth Phoenix.
But then you'd have to lose either Dom or Edge or
Let's be
Ray.
real. We can lose Dom for that match.
Fair. That's fair.
Dom is solid. He's got a lot of potential, but he's definitely the weakest.
Yes. I do also think it's very interesting that Finn has been pinned both times this week. And
that is true.
Their matches, considering he's like the de facto leader of Judgment Day. Like normally you'd see like a lackey do it, but maybe this means that they have high aspirations for Priest more than Finn, and they want to protect Damian more. Who knows? But I do think it's very interesting that Finn was the one to take the pin both times this week.
That is a good point. We'll see.
Yes.
We'll have to see moving forward. Moving on, we had Pat McAfee versus Happy Corbin. I don't know why he's still Happy Corbin, but
he's just happy to be there.
Yeah, he is. And Pat McAfee defeats Happy Corbin by pinfall in 10 minutes and 40 seconds. Corbin comes out first, and McAfee has a choir out there to sing "Bum Ass Corbin" for
quite some time.
Happy Corbin for a while, and he's very upset. Then they're singing McAfee's theme song, and it was pretty cool. I guess it's nice to have special entrances.
Yeah,
this was pretty good. Like, McAfee, looked pretty good like usual, like he has. Corbin dominated most of the match as he should, but Corbin was caught off guard. I don't remember he ran into the referee.
Yes,
and McAfee was able to hit him with a low blow. It's a callback to SmackDown on Friday because Corbin low blowed McAfee while he was on commentary. So I guess it's a cool little callback to that moment. And McAfee gets a nice win with a low blow, and then he hit. What did he finish him with?
He hit the really bad Panama Sunrise.
Oh yeah.
Where,
he hit a really bad. Yep. It was ugly, but whatever.
Yeah. Again, I think part of this was just the size of Corbin, because he is a big man for this move. And
hey,
also,
he hit a drop kick earlier in the match, though.
Yeah, which we're pretty sure is the first time we've ever seen Corbin do that. You can tell that McAfee and Corbin work really well together because, again, they have known each other for over a decade, as commentary and their video packages have pointed out. They were roommates when they both joined the Colts in 2009. So, story has long-term implications. I also think that this was the match where we could finally see that commentary. At least Michael Cole has a lot more freedom now.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't hear him say WWE Universe at all.
Yeah,
he was saying WWE fans, which I haven't heard in years.
Yeah,
so definitely, I agree with your point there. A lot more freedom for sure.
Also, I didn't know this, but I've seen it a lot online and from like watching other reviews about the show that apparently during this match, Corey Graves at one point says that I wish you were still being had no opinions of your own, and Michael Cole just simply says times have changed. So yeah, definitely seems like this, at least for this, I mean, you could say, oh, well, this is because Michael Cole has been like fawning over Pat for like the past year as his commentary partner. But it's also clearly a little bit of a shot at like not having somebody directing every word you say out of your mouth.
And also that interests me to see if promos become less scripted as well, which I think they should. Like, I'm not saying scripted promos are all bad. I'm saying, like, if you want to script your promos, sure, that's fine. But I think if you want to have more freedom to say what you want to say, you should be allowed.
Yes. I think that was evident later in the show, that there are going to be some a little bit unscripted promos. Because I think the Drew segment, most of that felt unscripted.
Yeah, I could see that.
But yeah, very interesting. And I also have to say, from the matches that it was the Raw commentary team, Byron and Corey were not screaming at each other the entire time.
That is true.
It was not none of us who were watching it last night in the room we were watching. None of us were like annoyed by Byron and Corey, and I can't remember the last time I can say that.
That's fair.
Again,
nice to see.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see if Pat goes back to if he is just going to wrestle on big shows or if he's going to wrestle a little more frequently. It'll be interesting to see because I think
he's going to remain like a big show wrestler for the most part. Not Paul White, the Big Show.
Oh, I wish.
Just wrestling on like the bigger pay-per-view. Premium live events, like the WrestleManias and the SummerSlams and maybe Royal Rumble or something.
Yeah. I also think it'll be interesting to see if Pat gets a permanent theme, because as we pointed out, he has now he's wrestled in 3 different major matches. He had his the WrestleMania one where he came out the 7 Nation Army, his NXT stuff, which had his own theme. Now this one was just O's.
Another
a lot
new
of
theme.
O's, which it's cool, but find something. Because
I agree.
It just, if you're gonna be a person who's gonna be wrestling, you can't just keep on changing it every time, because it just
you need something
wacky.
recognizable.
Yeah. So yeah, we can move on to our next match.
Yep, which was the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Championship between the Usos and the Street Profits, with Jeff Jarrett as a special guest referee. And the Usos retained their titles by pinning the Street Profits in 13 minutes and 25 seconds. This was interesting. I think it wasn't as good as the Money in the Bank match. It was still a great match. They've had great chemistry and they have delivered in every time they've touched, basically. But it definitely did tease dissension at the end of the match between the Profits. There was a really close 2 count when Ford hit one of the Usos with a frog splash, and then he sold his ribs hurting for a while, and then he covered them, and it was a really close 2 count. And then Montez kind of freaked out on Jeff Jarrett for a second, which Jeff Jarrett did nothing wrong. He counted, he counted consistently. He was kind of inconsistent, but it wasn't like he was cheating or anything. He just is not a referee. So, but then this kind of bites them when he tags in Angelo, and then he gets knocked over the barricade, he being Montez Ford. And then the Usos are able to super kick Angelo and then pin him with their 1D or whatever their finisher is called.
Yeah.
So, Montez looked kind of pissed. So it definitely looks like we're heading towards the breakup of the Street Profits here.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting development. I mean, I think everybody's known for a bit that it seems like the WWE is very high on Montez as a potential singles star. I think he's been phenomenal since his NXT days. He's probably one of the most charismatic individuals they have. He's also very good, and you can also say that he's probably one of the more undervalued individuals, just because for the last few years, at least since they've been up on the main roster, The tag divisions has not gotten as much respect. But he's been a major reason that the Street Profits are as popular as they are.
Hey, I know you don't like him, but Angelo Dawkins has definitely improved a lot.
Yes, he is perfectly capable in ring. I just don't enjoy his promos that he does. And I also
Montez is clearly the better of the two. I'm just saying he holds his own.
Yes. I do think that it would be a mistake to turn Montez heel and have Dawkins as the babyface if they split, because I cannot see the crowd going against Montez.
We don't know, because we haven't seen Montez as a heel, so he could be like an incredible heel. You don't know. Like, think about it with Bayley. Bayley was only ever a babyface.
That's
when
fair.
she turned heel, I was like, I don't know. But Bayley as a heel has been way better than Bayley as a babyface ever was. And Bayley was like an all-time babyface in her NXT run. So we'll see. I agree. I think Montez is more naturally a face.
Yeah,
and it seems like Dawkins should be the one. But
it's just that feud I just can't see people getting behind Dawkins for.
Yeah.
Because I feel like everybody at this point knows that like Montez is the star of this group. And if you're gonna have because you'd have to have a feud between them if they break up, it would just be very odd for everybody to for the story to try to be like building up Angelo as the guy that the crowd should be caring about, other than Montez, who everybody already cares about.
You know what? I do think the crowd is conditioned to care about both of them.
Yeah.
I think Ford a little more. So I do see your point, but I don't know. I think it might be okay if they did it that way. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I expect this to be something that happens quite soon at this point compared to, I don't think that they're going to hold off on this.
Yeah, I don't think
much longer.
Long. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens on Monday even.
Yeah. Or Friday. I think this week
be.
is something. It is probably when you'd have it happen.
Yep. Okay. Let us move on to the semi-main event.
Yeah.
The SmackDown Women's Championship match: Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey, and Liv Morgan retains her title by defeating Ronda by pinfall in 4 minutes and 35 seconds, the shortest match of the night, in a very controversial finish, actually, because Ronda had Liv trapped in an armbar, looked for like the third or fourth time in the match. So Liv was going through it.
Yeah.
Liv got dominated for most of the match. She looked like she was really in pain. Ronda's shoulders were down on the mat, though. So the ref counted 3. But at about the 2.5 count, Liv Morgan tapped out. But the referee did not see it.
Yes.
So Liv retains, but Ronda is pissed. She snaps and attacks Liv Morgan, puts her in the armbar again. Then she attacks the referee and puts him in an armbar.
Yes.
You know what? I have been trashing Ronda Rousey for weeks now, and I'm so happy to see her as a heel now. This is absolutely the right move.
Yeah.
It is a shame because Liv looks a little bit weak in victory here, not defeat. Liv got dominated the whole match pretty much. She did not look Ronda's equal.
I can't remember like an actual move Liv hit in this match.
She hit a few, but definitely Ronda was in control for the majority of the match. Mm-hmm. She did actually have Ronda in a Rings of Saturn for a bit.
Yes,
which was pretty cool.
Yes, I do remember that.
But for the most part, it was all Ronda Rousey, and that's kind of how the feud has been. It's kind of been Ronda is, probably going to win this match, and Liv was the super underdog, and that's kind of how it went.
Yeah. I do think this is the character that Ronda should have been the entire time. She should just, we've known for quite some time that Ronda is not great on the mic. Just make her a badass. Just, she's a mixed martial artist. She's easily detestable. And she is, I think when she's heel, she's a very good heel. She showed that in her last run with the company when she was heel towards the before she left going into Mania a few years ago. I just feel like this is definitely what needs to be done. It revitalizes her character, and again, it makes Liv a more sympathetic character.
Yeah. And just please, for the love of God, keep Natalya away from Ronda Rousey.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait for it to be that Natalya ends up becoming her manager, and they just cut promos together forever.
Oh, I'll kill myself. But yeah, this was the weakest match on the show, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
But I mean, it wasn't terrible. It just was the weakest match.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting that, at least from reports, it seems like this match had some time cut because of other things on the card that had happened earlier that went a little long. And I just can't, like, if this was going to be the whole match of them just doing this armbar and Liv eventually getting to the ropes and breaking it and then getting back into it and then having Ronda dominate her some more, I don't know if that would be, if going any longer would have been better. I feel like,
you know what? I think it was fine the way it was. I don't think any longer would have helped. So you're right. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
I guess we should, before we go to the main event, I guess we should talk about the two segments that happened during the show that weren't matches.
Yeah, that's all you, because I'm drawing a blank right now.
So we had Drew McIntyre come out to cut a promo, basically talking about his now he's the number one contender, and then he throws shade at the main event, talking about how it is the first time ever that we're having this big main event between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and then says, well, no, actually it's not. Well, it's the first time in Nashville that this has happened. Maybe. I'm not sure. But it's the first time in this stadium at SummerSlam in front of a lot of these people, like this guy. What's your name? And it's a kid, and he says his name is Colt. The crowd starts chanting Colt's name, which is definitely cool.
Yeah, great moment for the kid.
This definitely felt like this was off the cuff, Drew.
Yeah.
Just talking about how, Clash of the Castles
this
coming
is
up.
The Drew McIntyre the crowd loves.
Yes.
So
yeah,
this is what we need from
no
him.
more of the scripted promos, none of the story times with the Drew about the Loch Ness Monster and Jinder Mahal's trashing of his motorcycle.
Yeah.
Just let the man be himself. Connect with the fans, genuinely connect with the fans.
He is a super likable guy. So
yes. And yeah, you should get some fireworks off when he raises his sword. So good moment. The other one would be all of a sudden commentary's running down a match.
Right.
And somebody jumps over the barricade, and it is Riddle.
Correct. I forgot about that.
Riddle gets on the mic and says, I'm not cleared for action because of what Seth did to me. And, they don't have to sanction a match. I just want to fight you right now. So, Seth, I know you want something. So come on down here. Let's fight. Seth starts to come out in easily the most questionable outfit he's ever worn. And
some of us thought he was naked.
Yes. He was wearing flesh-colored... from a distance, it looked like it was a flesh-colored suit that legit matched his skin color at a distance. So it just looked like he did not have a shirt on, and part of his pants weren't there. But as he got closer to the camera, you could just see it was a bright orange outfit. He's got multiple producers and refs trying to hold him back, but he's probably one of the top athletes in the company. He rushes down past them, gets in the ring, him and Riddle start beating on each other before Seth, because he is not injured, takes the upper hand, hits a stomp after multiple people are trying to tell him not to do it. And then he walks away and just talks to the camera while they occasionally would flash back to Riddle getting medical treatment. I thought that this was a segment that, again, we knew Seth was going to be on here in some capacity. I don't think this was the greatest thing. I think this was a bit of a letdown from all the people.
definitely not the best use of Seth Rollins. For
Yeah,
sure.
and also this took a lot of time because they just kept on like throwing it back to Seth. They kept the camera on this from when Seth left the ring all the way to the entrance, and he walked so slow back. This took a lot of time that did not need to happen. But it was good to see Seth on, and again, it continues to have Riddle off or on the thing, so this is still a feud, I guess. But I don't know if this is to write Riddle off even longer or what, because it would be very
the
odd.
rumor is to have their match in Cardiff, so maybe it'll just write him off a couple weeks.
Yeah,
just so they don't like exhaust the feud too much.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for the match because they're both really good. It's just I don't know how this helps Riddle because he's already injured and not medically cleared, and now he's been injured again. So like, shouldn't that mean he's off for more? Like, it shouldn't be like, okay, you're medically. I think this could to like an unsanctioned match between the two.
I could see it, and that would be great.
Yeah,
so,
and we haven't
not my favorite use of Seth. We were expecting more, possibly a special match with Johnny Gargano, as many of us predicted, but that did not happen. So,
or some people, or as Pat predicted, it would be this is where Edge was going to show up. We saw people online thinking this is where the Fiend was going to show up, or Bray Wyatt. But yeah, no, it was just this, and now main event time.
Yeah. Okay. We had for the 750th time in the last several years, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar in a last man standing match for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, with Roman Reigns defeating Brock Lesnar in 23 minutes flat. Yeah. And I have to say, this was the best match they've ever had.
Yes.
Except, I would say, for the first WrestleMania match. But it was pretty close, honestly. This was really good. I was not looking forward to this match at all going into it.
No.
But they over-delivered. Honestly, this was one of the best last man standing matches in recent memory. So, everything.
It's a type of match that doesn't get used very often.
Yeah.
So it's not one that like it's not like a chairs match where it's like, okay, you get them every year, basically. But like a last man standing match, we had Roman versus Kevin Owens at the Rumble one time with it. And then
it was last year.
Yeah, and then I can't remember the last time there was a last man standing match before that.
I think
it might have been.
I think it was Roman and Baron Corbin.
Yeah, that's what I was going to think.
2020. So this is like Roman's like signature match type now,
which I'm perfectly fine with. I like when people have signature match types,
and Roman is the perfect guy for it.
Yeah.
Brock came out with like a tractor.
This is massive.
It took him forever to get it down the ramp because the ramp was so awkwardly shaped.
Yeah.
And like
it was so massive. At first when he got in, we were a little bit nervous that it wasn't going to start because he got in and like it was not moving for a bit. And I was like, what happens if it can't move? Like what happens if like the engine blew or the battery's dead? Like, is this a major part of this match? We thought at first when it got to the ring that this might be used to pin somebody.
I definitely thought that.
But nope, that's not what we got instead. We got something much more interesting.
Yeah. Well, after several times where Lesnar he jumped off it, he dumped Roman into the ring with it, and then eventually for the big spot of the match, Roman is in the ring and Lesnar lifts the entire ring up with the tractor and tips it over. Not completely, he doesn't like flip it over, but it's like it's just up in the air, probably like 15 feet in the air. Roman gets dumped out and falls out to the floor.
It was a funny visual.
It was a great visual. I've never seen anything like it. It was definitely unique. So I like stuff like that. Roman only stayed down for like a 7 or an 8 count, but still.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a moment that was. Theory did come out and tease his cash in as expected, but he ate an F5 from Brock. So he did not get to cash in.
And then
I'm glad to see that.
he also got wailed on with the briefcase.
Oh
by
yeah,
Roman
where
Roman just like
briefcase.
like he just saw the briefcase was here, just grabs it and walks over to Theory and just yells, "You're so stupid!" and just starts wailing on him, which I thought was fantastic.
I'm glad to see Theory keeps the briefcase. It's better to have it than just there was no reason for him to use it here.
Yeah,
they did too much teasing of it. I didn't think it would actually happen. One of the other best spots, Paul Heyman eats an F5 through the announce table. This might be the first time that Paul Heyman's actually taken like a good finisher like this. Like, he's probably taken a couple physical moves over the years, but this was the best one we've seen.
Yeah, I can't think of many moments where
it's been a long time coming through this feud. So, yeah, this was everything you wanted and more. The Usos got involved. They got killed, but then they came back and helped factor into the finish. Roman Reigns kept hitting him with spears and the title, and Lesnar just kept getting up at 9 every time. And finally, Lesnar is able to be kept down after being hit with the Universal title, because that's the more powerful title, of course, because
it's got the power of all the universe.
Yep. And then they buried Brock with like the announce table pieces and part of the barricade and all kinds of chairs and everything around ringside, and he stayed down for 10.
Yeah.
So what a match. What a moment. What a way to end a great show.
Yeah. I think this definitely was, in my opinion, the best match they've had between each other. I think this was more enjoyable than I expected it to be. I do think the ending was a bit weird because it was just, as you mentioned, like we had I think it was originally a chair that was hit on Brock, or it was something, and then it was the briefcase, and that it
was a spear, then the briefcase, then another spear, then like the WWE title, and then like the Universal title. It was a lot. You know what? It was a little weird, but I can forgive it.
Yeah, the rest of the match was great. I also props to Heyman for taking an F5 because he is an older guy. He sold it like absolute death. The man just laid there like he was dead for quite some time.
Yep, he had to be helped up too after the match.
Yeah, and I think that this was probably the most over I think Brock has been. I think this was also the most anybody has cared about a Brock and Roman match in quite some time.
Yeah, this is the match they should have had at WrestleMania.
Yes.
So
I do think that this should not give WWE the green light to bring this back ever again.
Oh, absolutely not. No, this should be the last.
Should be the end.
They said last match, and they should stick to it because this was the perfect end to this chapter.
Yes, I also think this should be if Brock did leave and like threatened to walk out of the company and all that stuff. I think this is a perfect send-off match if he wants to be done with wrestling for a bit.
Absolutely.
I don't think we should see him for quite some time after this.
Yeah, I would say at least until like around Mania season next year.
Yeah. Take as much time off because this was the perfect match to go off on.
And this continues Lesnar's streak of being Mr. SummerSlam. This man always, except for the one time with Randy, always has bangers at SummerSlam.
Yep. And this was a perfect way to go off on. And I think that this was probably the best outcome you could have is them delivering on such a high scale. It went much longer than any of us thought it was going to go.
Yeah, the only one who was close was Joey.
Yes.
So.
And I mean, this has to be one of Brock's longest matches in quite some time. Longest, like, straight one-on-one match in quite some time.
Definitely, without a doubt.
I mean, I think
like his Undertaker feud or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like him and Bryan the one year had a really long match.
I could see that. He and Bryan probably had like a 15-20 minute match.
Yeah, but this is much longer than any of the Roman matches I can think of.
The first one was probably just as long, but that's about it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this checked all the boxes. I think this is a fantastic show.
This is, in my opinion, easily the best WWE show of the year so far. Every match delivered. Even the weaker matches were still fine. Like, there was nothing here there was nothing that I hated. I loved a lot more than I didn't like. So there were a lot of great moments, and every match delivered. So definitely a lot of thumbs up from me. More thumbs than I have. So yeah.
Yeah, it's the same for me. It's multiple thumbs up from me. And like Rob said, there's more to like than dislike. And I think that if this is how we're starting off the Triple H running the show era, I think this is a perfect way to start that off. And I've got high hopes for what's next.
Yeah. That will do it for this edition of the Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed. And if you haven't seen it, go watch SummerSlam. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. Take care. Be safe. We'll talk to you next time.
Yes, sir.